Hey guys, Dean Gordon here up in Sturgeon Bay, Wisconsin. First off, I'd like to apologize for not being able to be live with you guys at your Zoom meeting tonight due to some prior obligations. So apologize for that, and kind of working through how to get a video or try to get something down there for you guys for this meeting. I'd like to thank Jim Pankratz for helping out with that. I'm not a tech person by any means. We fish and that's what we do. So we're not big into the technology aspect of it. So Jim's been a big help in getting this video down, getting us set up with YouTube and everything else that we need here to get that done. So thanks, Jim. A little bit about myself. Like I said, my name is Dean Gordon. I've been a captain here in Sturgeon Bay since 2005. We started hooked up sport fishing charters in 2006, but before that worked on different charter boats all the way through high school, and as soon as I could get a captain's license when I turned 18, I went and took the class and decided it was something I wanted to do. So, like I said, 2006, we launched the start of hooked up sport fishing charters. We've been guiding and running charter boats here ever since, here in Sturgeon Bay. So we fish year round. We kind of work through the seasons and target just about everything that there is to target here in Sturgeon Bay. So a little bit about Sturgeon Bay, first of all. We're, of course, located right in Door County. We're halfway up the peninsula, if you look at Wisconsin on a map, halfway up the thumb. And what's nice about and unique about Sturgeon Bay is one of the only places where you can truthfully, launch your boat right downtown Sturgeon Bay, and you can decide whether you want to fish for salmon, trout out on Lake Michigan, or if you want to go fish bass, walleye, muskie, pike, perch, whatever it may be on the Green Bay side. So we really truly are fortunate. There's a lot of great places around the country. There's great places for bass, great places for walleye, great places for pike and muskie and etc. But there really is very few areas like Sturgeon Bay where we have such a variety, and that's just the Great Lakes fishery that we have here. So what we're going to do in this video today, I guess, is talk just a little bit about a lot of different stuff. We're not going to get too in depth in anything, and being that I'm not live here and not able to interact with you guys, you can certainly reach out to me if you have any questions specifically on any type of technique or tactic that we go over or that we talk about here today. But basically what I'd like to do is just kind of give you a broad taste of kind of what we have to offer here in Sturgeon Bay and why it may be a good place for you guys to come on up here on your own and give this a shot. So first off, Sturgeon Bay it's a great area to come and visit outside of the fishing. We've got of course all the tourism stuff. We've got hotels, restaurants, some of the best venues around here. So it really is a nice place. Nice place to come and visit, both on and off the water. So as far as the fishing goes, I'm going to try to kind of go through the different seasons here. So we fish, of course, like I said, we fish year round. We do ice fishing in the winter. In the spring, when the ice is gone, we get into the brown trout right away. Then we move on to walleyes and later bass before we get into the salmon and trout season by shortly after Memorial Day weekend. So I'm going to talk a little bit about, like I said, a little bit about all those. So to start out with ice fishing, in Door County has been, it really has, when we started off in 2006, we ended up, we were guiding for perch mostly at that time, perch, a little bit of walleye, some pike fishing trips. There really wasn't any talk at that time about whitefish. So around the same time, the gobies were moving in and everybody was panicked. The bass fishermen were panicked. Walleye fishermen were panicked. They were gonna eat all the eggs, and it was gonna turn out to be a bad thing. So, in hindsight, now looking back, it's kind of funny how great of a thing that invasive species has become to our area. It's made our bass. We've got bass up to 8 pounds here. We've got walleye feeding on them. Lake trout are eating them. But the big thing is the whitefish, like we were talking. So in about 2006, 2007, we started catching whitefish and on our perch gear, and said, hey, this is going to really be something. And really in a short amount of time, it just exploded. It blew up. I think some members of the Yahara club here were probably up here in the early days of when we were getting going with that. But we've changed our tactics over the years. It started off, everybody was using Swedish pimples and waxworms, and that's what you had to do with slider hooks and all this stuff for whitefish, and that stuff works. But in about 08, 09, we started using minnows on a jig, on a Lindy slick jig it was at the time, and we used those. So we ended up making a mold for these, and we've been using minnows. I haven't put a waxworm on for a whitefish in well over 10 years. So like I say, we started off using the slick jigs. They discontinued making them. We got into actually making these jigs ourselves, and so we made the mold. So what we've got here is it's between the 3/16 and 1/4 ounce jig, and we use these tipped with either a minnow head or tail, or we'll put a soft plastic on there. You can use a Kitech to cut the head off, or there's a bunch of different plastics that you can use and jig them through the ice in the winter. So that's kind of our winter season now. Has predominantly become ice fishing for whitefish. There again, we use a lot of light tackle for our ice fishing. So it's real important that we're using a light line, a fluorocarbon line. We're in crystal clear water here in the winter, even though we're in deep water. Anybody who's caught a whitefish can see they've got pretty good sized eyes, and they can see really good. They're a sight fishing fish. So we like to use this Berkeley Trilene 100% fluorocarbon 6-pound line. We find that to work pretty well for what we do out there. Of course, the club has came up and fished whitefish, a big group of them anyway, so you guys know the routine. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on our ice fishing stuff, but one thing that's neat and people don't think about, and we do it and have been doing it quite often for a long time, is the open water whitefish. So we use the same tactic. Instead of a 23-inch, 24-inch rod that we use through the hole in the ice, we'll do it over the side of the boat in the summertime, this time of year actually, and it can be just a blast. I was out last week, was a week or two ago. We had a day off and ran out to catch some fresh whitefish, and the three of us, we filled the cooler with our 30 in a matter of, well, it was under an hour probably, and not a boat around within 2 miles. So it is, if you get up in this area and you guys have done it in the wintertime and maybe you're fishing bass or walleye and you either get tired of that or the bite's tough, it's something to think about in the summertime also. You can fish the same areas. The advantage in the summer, you've got, of course, now with electronics the way they are, you can go around and you can find these fish a lot faster than we can in the wintertime, where you're somewhat limited. You've got to drill a hole, drop a transducer down, or test an area. So there's a huge biomass of whitefish out in Green Bay. In fact, there's so many that the DNR just increased the quota for the commercial fishermen. I think almost 250,000 pounds on a temporary basis here. But we've been very fortunate to have a good, sustainable fishery out there for quite some time. So if you get up here in the open water, take advantage of that also. I mean, don't just think they're wintertime only fish. If you do target them in the summer, one thing we found, of course, now with trolling motors, the spot lock works great on a calm day. If you get a flat calm day, you can go out and hit your spot lock and you're fine. If you get a little bit of wind, that spot lock works great, but your boat's still moving a little bit. So you might find, and we found, taking and actually throwing an anchor, even though, we're fishing sometimes, you can get them as shallow as 10, 15 feet, but a lot of times when we target them, we're out on the offshore reefs, is where we'll find our best action. So you might be in 60, 70, 80 feet of water, but throwing an anchor over the side, maybe even two if it's real windy, to keep that boat stationary so that you can really focus on jigging on the bottom. But other than that, everything's the same, just a small, a minnow. Like I say, you can use these, you can use soft plastics, a whole wide range of things that they'll bite on. So what the whitefish are feeding on is those small gobies. So the gobies, which of course everybody was worried about, turned out to be an absolutely great thing for the whitefish, because at the same time that their food source, all the phytoplanktons and stuff got filtered out, they adapted to coming in to feed on these gobies. So that's what you're trying to mimic. So whether you're using a minnow or soft plastic or whatever it is, try to make it look as much like a goby as you can, and make sure that you're on the bottom, making contact with the bottom. So that's that's all I'm going to talk about: whitefish and open water whitefish. So next I'm going to move into our brown trout. I'm going to try to go through the seasons from winter through our season up here. So brown trout fishing in Sturgeon Bay is, a lot of times guys think big browns, you think Milwaukee Harbor, Racine, some of the southern ports on Lake Michigan are more known for bigger browns, but we spend about 2 to 3 weeks every spring, as soon as the ice goes out, fishing brown trout here. You can catch them year round, of course. Browns spend most of their lives in 40 feet of water or less, and we do catch them in the summer also, but when we're targeting them, when we're guiding for them, is usually in the spring of the year. So we tend to, April into maybe some years into May, but this year's pretty much over by May. So for brown fishing, there's a couple different ways you can go about it. You can either troll the shorelines. Now there's shallow water fish in the spring of the year. We're fishing them sometimes 6, 8, 10, 12 feet of water, sometimes a little bit deeper, but and if you're into trolling, a real productive way to go about it is, put your boards out, use stick baits. We like to use floating rapalas, junior thunder sticks. There's some different husky jerks stuff, and we'll also use spoons. We'll run a lot of the same gear that we use for salmon and trout in the summer months. It'll work for browns along the shorelines also. So as far as the floating rapalas go, we like number 9s, number 11s, just the floating, just the standard natural colors, black and silver, black and gold. This purple descent's probably one of my all-time favorites for browns up there. The thunder sticks, I like the ones you can't buy anymore. I don't know if you can see on here, but you can kind of see the glitter on here. So the old Storm Junior thunder sticks, if you ever find them, buy them. If you see them at a garage sale or anywhere, they really work well in the clear water. I think that little bit of glitter sparkle on there seems to work well for us up here. So that's one way. But if you're not into trolling, we've got some phenomenal opportunities for casting for browns up here, and a lot of times we'll use little Cleos, and all you need is one bait, 1 or 2 different spoons of blue and silver, blue and green, little Cleo. You can cast them offshore, you can cast them off your boat, but it is an absolute phenomenal bait for fishing for early springtime brown trout up here. In Sturgeon Bay, we've got, in the areas up and down the shoreline, we've got tons of opportunity to fish right offshore. I mean, you guys can come up, do a day trip, and pretty much catch these fish for about a 3-week window out of any number of spots here in the county. Like I said, our brown trout season is usually, every year is a little bit different, but the second the ice goes out, you can catch them from then throughout the year, but the best time to go is the earliest. When you start to get the spring runoff, you still have snow on shore. The creeks are muddy, and on the Lake Michigan shoreline, trolling from Sturgeon Bay south to Algoma, that stretch is pretty good. The bayside, usually the ice goes out, it's probably a week or 2 after you can get out on the lake, so that fishing's really good for a couple weeks. Then we move as soon as the ice is gone in the bay, and we fish right in Sturgeon Bay, actually. The area called the Flats, which is just as you leave Sturgeon Bay, headed towards Green Bay on the right-hand side. There's a couple-mile stretch there that's real good for browns. And then all the way up the shoreline. The nice part about brown fishing, you're fishing at a time of year where the water's not crowded. So you're not seeing a lot of the pleasure boats. People that are out there are fishing, and there's not that many of them, and there's a whole bunch of areas that you can go. So you can go on the Lake Michigan side, basically all the way up the peninsula, all the way up to Moonlight Bay, and down the bay side from the tip of the peninsula all the way down to Little Sturgeon. So there's really an ample opportunities to fish for those fish. They're great eating, they're fun to catch, and the fishing the last few years seems to be on a little bit of an uptick for browns. So So that's our brown season. I think I'm going to talk for another couple minutes here. I don't know how long a video I can take on this phone, and then I might stop the video and restart and talk about our more about our summer